The Justice League has died and the end of the multiverse is on its way. But there's one former member lost in the multiverse that could turn the tides of battle. Barry Allen the Flash. And while the hunt for Barry is about to begin, the former members of Young Justice reflect on the loss of their mentors and what this could mean for their futures. You have found yourself in the bizarre side of YouTube, where reality meets fiction, where your stories are read back to you in a dramatic fashion, where I get to pretend to be a voice actor. This is Comicstorian, and we take the time to make you a comic book expert by filling you in on the big moments happening within the world of comics. We do cut out the B plots and we limit our panel usage to prevent copyright problems. This allows you to have something to read to yourself if you choose to. I do recommend going to your local comic book store and starting your own collection. Or you can always use one of our sponsors, Shortboxed. Click the link down below to learn how you can win a graded comic book yourself and discover the world of collectible comics. Now, in the death of the Justice League in Dark Crisis 1, we saw the League actually die. Now the rest of the DC Universe decided to deal with the losses of the greatest heroes. Today we'll be exploring two of the spin-off tie-ins, as one seems very important and the other seems like it's just for fun. Over in the Flash comic book, Wally West has taken over as the main Flash, and we'll get to those stories eventually. But with the League dead and Barry Allen missing, the Speedsters need to rally. But before we can cover that story, let's talk about Young Justice. You see, they haven't had a book running, so this is the perfect time for DC to see if the audience would be up for a storyline featuring Robin, Superboy, and Impulse. So we're going to check in on them with Dark Crisis, Young Justice issue number 1, and then we'll cut over to Flash 783. Hundreds, if not thousands, gather around the statues put up at the Hall of Justice to mourn the loss of Earth's finest heroes. Many in the crowd are at a loss as to what to even do next. What can you do when some of the greatest heroes are now dead? Cassie is trying to answer that question like many others when she saw her friends Connor, Tim, and Bart. All of them members of Young Justice, and all of them had someone to look up to that is now suddenly gone. So where does that leave the former sidekicks? A Superboy without a Superman, a Robin without a Batman, a Flash without the Flash family, and a Wonder Girl without a Wonder Woman. And this isn't the first crisis that they've had to endure. Most of the time, there's always something much more disastrous for them than anything. Bart fought Superboy Prime and ended up getting murdered. Connor died and broke their hearts, which led to Cassie confiding in Tim. What now? What trial are they going to face? Arrowette already said she wasn't coming back to this team. So that just leaves the 4 of them. As she's trying to figure out what's going on, Cassie begins to notice a change. She looked over at where her 3 friends were standing to find nothing, with no sign of them anywhere. Each of the missing 3 begin to wake up, but all in different places. Tim is back in the manor as Alfred wakes him up telling him that there is a Young Justice alert. How is Alfred alive? Connor had a similar experience, but instead of Alfred being there, he was greeted by Dubelex. And Wally West is the one that greeted Bart, who is helping him train. But it's a comment by Bart that makes things seem out of place. You see, while training, Bart mentions maybe taking a bit of a break. They did lose Barry. And it was the response from Max Mercury that raised a question. What do you mean lost? You've never met Barry Allen. That's when it hits. Yeah, he might be in Central City and things might seem normal. But when is he? After a quick run around the states, Bart stops by Happy Harbor, which is the first base that Young Justice had, and he finds Tim and Connor already there. He asks if anyone else has any idea what's going on. Did they travel back in time or to some cool parallel world where everyone else is backwards? Connor says maybe they're just back to how things should be. But at that moment, Tim gets an alert on the computer that this Young Justice team is needed. They're gonna have to figure out what's going on after they help out those in need. So a short time later, after arriving on the scene, the 3 boys find themselves up against a foe they did not expect, the Mighty Endowed. Tim begins to exclaim how he does remember this. This is weird. And Connor says that there isn't enough therapy in the world for this. Meanwhile, back in the original world, Cassie tries talking to all of the heroes, trying to find out what happened to her friends. But no matter who she talks to, she gets the same general answer. They're just boys grieving in their own ways. They'll show back up. Eventually, they'll be coming to look for their friends as well. No one else but Cassie finds it odd that they have been missing for 3 days. Back in this alternate universe or time travel, the young heroes find themselves at a loss on how to handle the mighty endowed. She seems to have a response or an attack to counter anything that they try. After being knocked down one last time, Tim gets up stating that he begins to feel like he just went 10 rounds of Damien. It's like the mighty endowed leveled up. Connor tells him not to worry about it. Someone is coming to their rescue. Someone will save them from the hypnotizing boobs. And at that moment, the three are rescued, but it's the Wonder Girl of this world or time. Now, if this is your first time joining us at Comicstorian, this is the cliffhanger of this issue because this issue only came out recently. Make sure you check back by liking and subscribing, as the moment the new issue comes out, we'll be putting it into our next Dark Crisis tie-in. But it's time for us to move over to the first issue of the Flash tie-in, 783. It's been a while since Wally and Barry essentially traded places, when Barry and Mr. Terrific tried to pull Wally's consciousness out of the Speed Force. Since then, Mr. Terrific has been working on a way to track Barry, similar to how they tracked Wally. But he finally got a lead that isolated Barry into one of 3 locations. So with the help of Max Mercury, Jesse Quick, Kid Flash, and Jay Garrick, Wally and the others are about to jump into a portal entering the Speed Force to try and bring Barry home. This is a mission for the entire Flash family, minus Impulse. Bart's a little busy. But before going through the portal, Linda stops by the lab with Jai and Ray. Linda asks if she could talk to Wally for just a moment. Jai and Ray shout that they want to help with whatever it is that they're doing, but Jay tells them that this is superhero business. Unfortunately, the kids can't come along this time. Linda pulls Wally aside, telling him that something happened. But right then, Mr. Terrific opens up the door, telling everyone that they need to go get ready. Each of them will be given a device that is tuned into what they think is Barry's resonant frequency. So once they locate Barry, they can just press the button on the device and it will signal Mr. Terrific to open the portal and bring them all back home. This should be an easy snatch and grab for the Flash family. But Ray expresses her desire to want to help, grabbing one of the devices off of the table, grabbing Jai by the arm, and the kids leap into the portal. Linda runs over, surprised that her kids just jumped into a time Speed Force portal. They're fine, right? Everything's going to be okay? And Wally turns to his wife. Of course, there's going to be 2 teams. I and Kid Flash are going one direction while Max and Jesse follow behind. Linda looks at Wally and tells him, the kids, Barry, bring them all home, Wally. Wally pulls down his mask. I will. That's a Flash fact. And with that, they all leap into the portal. Mr. Terrific going back to working on his computer, asking Linda when is she planning on telling Wally. Was it going to be today? Linda tries to play it off, confused. What do you mean, Mr. Terrific? But he just chimes in again. Your powers. I know about them. You need to tell Wally that you've gained Speed Force powers when he gets back. We'll figure things out then. Max and Jesse are the first to fall out of their portal and find themselves in the middle of the desert. Jesse asks where are they, and Max says that it reminds him of his old stomping grounds. Maybe they can ask those people who seem to be speeding in their direction chasing someone. Suddenly, an explosion goes off, and as the two look at the person being chased, they realize that it's this world's Barry Allen, that they've traveled through time to find a past version. But in another timeline, Barry wakes up with his beautiful wife, telling him that he is Barry Allen and he is the luckiest man alive. In this world, Barry is married and has 2 children with Iris, and everything is seemingly picture perfect. Even when called to stop Captain Cold in this ideal, perfect world, he is joined by his kid Flash. And while Wally starts to rescue all of the civilians and passerbys, Barry begins to focus his attention on Captain Cold, sneaking in his own hits here and there. And after making a ring of ice on the ground around him, Captain Cold managed to trip, launching himself into a nearby building. Captain Cold takes aim once more at Barry, but as he fires, Barry grabs a mirror, deflecting the beam, freezing Captain Cold instead. Barry and Wally cheer at their triumphant victory, but watching them from a nearby building is Wally and Wallace, with Wallace asking, What's going on, Wally? And Wally looks at him. I have no clue, but we're gonna find out. And that is the beginning of the Flash storyline. Once again, make sure you like, subscribe so you can catch the next part once it comes out. And if you're curious about the storyline involving Wally and Wallace as Flash and Kid Flash, well, it's a 10-issue spread that takes place after the last one. It wasn't important to the Dark Crisis storyline, so I figured we would get to it after we start this. So look for the Flash storyline starting next week as we catch you up on what's happening with Wally West as the Flash. Now anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's coverage of the Dark Crisis event. Next week, we should be covering Dark Crisis issue number 2 and whatever other tie-ins actually came out. So if you want to see what's happening with Young Justice, The Flash, and Dark Crisis, make sure you subscribe, and we'll be covering them once they drop. Thank you for joining us here at Comicstorian, and I'll see you next time.